I think there's a quality difference there between Kenya and Gambia at the moment. Sometimes people ignore that and just look at the names and okay, Gambia is maybe a small country of 1.5 million people, but we've got over 200 footballers playing in Europe, and that's what Kenya aspire to have. And hopefully with all of the development that's going on through the Talanta Ella programs and various things that can happen in the future. But for us, it was about first of all matching the Harambee Stars in the fight, in the running, in the work rate, because we know, look, this Harambee Stars team, I don't know that there's a team on the continent that works harder than the Harambee Stars. Even when it's 3-0 down, they're still running. They're not giving up, and that's huge credit to what the coaches are doing and just the character of the players. But for us, we first of all had to match them in that, and then gradually be patient on our quality to take over. And you saw that, we scored some really nice goals today. In the second half, look, it was probably harder than it needed to be, at 3-0 at half time, but we knew Kenya would come out hard against us. We were disappointed to concede the goal. Obviously, we were waiting to make that substitution on the side to swap out the winger. Kubo was, fatiguing a little bit, and yeah, 3-1, we're really pleased. To come away anywhere in Africa is incredibly hard to win and pick up points, and especially when you have a capacity crowd like today. So I think, look, it's a new team. If you look at the Gambia players who were in the lineup 18 months ago, 2 years ago, when they were at the AFCON, there's only maybe 2 or 3 of them still in the starting 11. There's a lot of young guys who were at the U20 World Cup a couple of years ago, and so they're maturing as a team, and that's what we said at halftime. We said, what type of team do we want to be? Do we want to be a team that can see out a strong position? And we showed that, so we're pleased. There's more to work on, but we're pleased. So the last game we were very disappointed by, and when we drew 3-3, in all honesty, we could have been 4 or 5 goals ahead in that game. And we missed a couple of chances today as well. There was a couple of big chances. We could have been 4 or 5-0 in front today as well. And we allowed Kenya to come back into the game the last time. If you look at all of the goals that Kenya scored, we created the situation ourselves as opposed to Kenya. In the first one, we passed the ball into the centre and we lose possession of it in a silly position for the penalty. The next one, we don't press correctly. We let the young man have a free strike at goal. The last one, a long throw, we need to be more dominant in the box in those moments. So Kenya did fantastically well to take advantage of the open doors, but it was us that opened the doors for them. And so we were really frustrated at that. It was also our first game in a new formation. If you look in the first sort of 10 months of my time, we were still in the sort of 4-3-3 shape. The game against Kenya in March was our first with a back 3. And so we were progressing, and you see that's developed a lot more. And look, this is also today probably a new Harambee Stars team today, because probably back in March, the coach was new and was relying on a lot of the guys that the previous coach had used, and it was almost, I would say, probably 90% a foreign-based team back in March. Whereas today you see it's more closer to 50-50 or even more in terms of domestic players. So the coach now knows his players much more, knows the character of them. And again, look, I don't know what other teams, are 3-1 down in injury time and still running like they're being chased by a lion. Yeah, and so I think people will be disappointed here in Kenya with the result. Of course, everyone wants to win football matches, but I think there's a big future for this team. There's a big future. I think Kenya have exactly the right coach that Kenya needs right now. I was, without going over old ground, if you go back to some of my interviews when I was working here, I was a little bit outspoken about some things, and so I think I don't need to refresh what my thoughts were of previous eras. I think you've got absolutely the right coach here. I think get behind him. He's hugely experienced. He's got these, yes, it's been 8 or 9 months, but in terms of days, it's probably like 20 or 30 training sessions. It's still no time at all. So the progress the team's making, yeah, I think Kenya are going to go a long way. So yeah, stick with the current guy for a long time is my suggestion. Yeah, look, I think part of it in terms of the altitude, we actually didn't really talk about it with the players much because we mentioned it for the first time at half-time today. We knew, but we didn't want to mention it, and so because sometimes the psychology can get into it. But what we did is we made I don't think we were on the training pitch for more than maybe an hour and 10 minutes in any of our training sessions. Even yesterday we did 44 minutes. Because we knew we had to stock up those energy supplies, and also we knew that we had to make substitutions. And look, we've got a very talented bench you know, if you look at where the players who we brought into the game are playing, they're like, you know, playing in Europa League, Champions League. You know, these are guys who are talented. So we know we can go to our bench. And yeah, like the other thing as well, which is unique in this game, and especially because the team is more home-based, more domestic now for Hambury Stars, any of the domestic players, I knew exactly what they were going to do when they came on. You know, I know how these guys, I know how Ogan plays, I know how Sylvester Olinger plays, I know how Offenyango plays, I know how Abud plays. So these are things that's just a one-off advantage. You know what I mean? So even when we saw Alpha coming on, you know when Alpha comes on, he's going to hit those diagonal passes, and if no one presses him, if someone blocks off the diagonal, he's going to drive 2 or 3 meters and then try and connect. You know, I know all of these things because I helped him get to that level. So that's a one-off, though. I don't think that can be a criticism for what Harambee Stars did. I didn't want to prove a point. For me, I feel at home here. You know, Kenya was very kind to me. You know, I came here and I worked extremely hard, and I hope people saw that whilst I was here. I developed relationships that are still lasting. Like I heard someone showed me that some people were reporting I was having some choma with some football fans. But if you actually know your football, every single one of those people worked for Kogalo. You know, so it was all of my staff, the kit men, the security, the assistants, you know, everybody, because those relationships, you know, they don't die because you've left. So for me, it was great to come back. I knew, you know, I'm used to winning in this stadium, and I wanted to keep winning in this stadium. Even before the match, if anyone was in early enough, you'll know when I was score coach, at this stadium only, I would walk around the pitch once. I would do a lot. I wouldn't go on the grass. I would stay off the grass, but I would walk around the pitch just once every game. I did it again today. Because I was like, well, we've had some really good times here, so let's hopefully do it again. But yeah, now we go on to the next game. Hopefully now, also, you know, for all of the Kenyans, you know, hopefully you've enjoyed watching our players here. And, you know, I know you guys are playing Seychelles on Tuesday afternoon, but if you want some late night football, there's a game in the evening kicking off at Nyayo, which is the Gambia versus Burundi. And so we would fully welcome any Kenyan support.
Good evening. Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening all. Yeah, no, of course, listen, learning experience for our boys today. Not what we expected, not what we wanted. But I think we never dropped our heads after you go 3-0 down in the first half. We kept fighting, we kept playing, but at this level, when you play and you make the mistakes that you make, that we did, yeah, you get punished. And when you have a Gambia squad where every outfield player and the bench that they have plays in Europe, that shows the level, the quality that they have. And we will have to learn if we want to find ourselves or see ourselves on that level, that at this stage, when you make the mistakes that we did, first goal, instead of trying to dribble out the back, you lose the ball and then they get a corner, and from the corner, people just not picking up their men and allowing players to get free headers inside the box. Yeah, of course, the players that they have, they play in Europe, so they know about the levels here. So when you get the opportunities that they got, they take them. And for us, yeah, you go 1-0 down, and then again trying to play through the lines, and then just where the simple pass was to play outside, and they intercept, and boom, you get yourself again 1 against 1. And Mente, he plays in the best league in the world, and yeah, you leave him 1 against 1. There's only one outcome going to be, and then 2-0 down, and then 3-0 down. Then it becomes really an uphill battle. But I think second half we made the changes. We brought in Alpha and Mansour because of the relationship that they had playing in the Chan, and I think they brought us a little bit more energy and more fight, and I think that's what people want to see when you put on the national team jersey. People want to see fight, people want to see passion, and I think First half we kind of lacked a little bit of that, and then second half there was more energy to it, and we could have gotten probably more than one today, but unfortunately it wasn't meant to be. So yeah, but I'm pleased for the boys that made the step up to international level and see how physical and how fast and how quick the game is, and how you make one mistake, you get punished for it. So yeah, and I know from here onwards it's a learning curve, but it's a learning curve in the right direction. Since I joined, I had Richard, so I know what he brings. He had a spell in Dundee. I watched him a couple of times before I joined when he was in Scotland, and then he went on loan to Rojvagino in Serbia. So he's played there, and then obviously pre-season he's done with his club, which I know it's very physical. Yeah, and I saw the news now that he got released, or he fought to get out of the situation that he was in, that the manager wasn't going to count on him. So yeah, so listen, it was a gamble. It was a gamble from my part, but it's a player that I know the quality, the experience that he brings. He plays in Europe, and you saw the difference between the two squads. Their squad, everyone playing in Europe, and our squad having half that's local and half that's international, and there's just slightly a little bit of difference in quality between the two. So I thought, yeah, Richard would give us a little bit of that powerhouse that we kind of desperately need to compete at this level. And yeah, it just didn't work today. Him and Timothy Uma, I think, overcomplicated a little bit in the midfield, and yeah, just made some errors, and we paid the price as a team, but not regretting my decision at all. I think this is part and parcel of being a coach for Kenyan national teams. You get goals disallowed, and you're not given any explanation. You just have to accept and move on. It happened in Chan, and it happened today as well. I thought it was clear-cut goals, but the referee and the assistant referee, the linesman, they saw different incidents, and they disallowed it a goal. So yeah, you have to just continue to play on if things don't go the way you want them to, and if it goes against you. But yeah, listen, I'm proud of the team, you know, for the performance, the resilience. They put up a fight, and we just came up short against a team that when you give them an opportunity, they stick it away. Like I said, our chances of qualifying for the World Cup was pretty slim, but you don't want to go out in the fashion that we did today. You know, when your first half, the game is kind of finished already. So I compliment the players for the effort, and you know, for coming out second half and putting up a fight and taking the game to Gambia, because yeah, we were the better side second half, but unfortunately we didn't put the chances away that they had in the first half, in the second half, to kind of get closer or close the gap in the scoreline. But yeah, and I think, yeah, like I said, the two players that came in the second half, they brought energy. They had they took the fight to Gambia, which for me going forward is great, because you can see now the players that played in the Chan, what confidence did to them, us going out there, and then you play the local players, and the level is just going up. So a lot positive to take from it, and having to assess the game again, and then see what changes can we bring for the next match on Tuesday against Seychelles, and hopefully it will be positive like the second half was for us. So I thought we started the brighter You know, possession, we had 2 corners or 3 corners where we could have gotten some joy from. So I think the team was very positive, so there was no need for me to really change so early, because it's also not fair on the players who were struggling a little bit, and then you leave it till half time, and then you see maybe if we last till half time, and then you change things around, and you look for a bit more energy and more quality from the players that we have on the bench, and then yeah, like I said, 3 mistakes and 3 costly mistakes. But other than that, I thought we were okay. We weren't too bad. We could have been not 3-0 down if we had just not leave players free in the marking, because yeah, players held their hand up in halftime and said they thought someone else was taking this player, even though on the boards and the screen the markers is that's your player, but I pass him on to someone else, and then you get punished. So childish defending from outside a little bit, that cost us the first goal. And then the second goal, like I said, yeah, one pass trying to play forward, and the ball got intercepted, and it fell for them and it played through. So 50-50 between Minte and the goalkeeper, which is almost like the flash.